Okay, welcome to September's koha-US general meeting. As always, we start out and see if anybody has any particular announcements they want to give out. That can be on just about anything they feel like announcing.
This is a partial announcement, partial request. I'm going to be at the KohaCon in Montreal on Thursday, September 26th, when the Consortia Special Interest Group meets. So I will not be able to attend the Consortia Special Interest Group. And as the group leader, that seems to be problematic. So is there anybody else that would be available to run that meeting?
Also be at KohaCon, so otherwise I would fill in.
I'll send out a message to the group and say, this is the situation, but if anybody here can, I just thought I'd mention it here in case there's anybody here that can do that. So thank you.
Okay, any other announcements?
I've got one. So our library system went live on Koha a year ago last week, and we made special commemorative pins
Nice.
for them.
How fun.
Oh man, I can't believe that's been a year already.
Yeah.
Fred, you had something?
Yes, not sure if this is announcing or bragging, but somebody whose initials might be Lauren Denny mentioned my name, and I ended up setting up a library in Thailand.
Oh,
Wow.
that's pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
What was the library?
New Horizons Bible Seminary.
So I was very thankful that you could help them get it set up. I need to learn that skill set. One day, maybe. I don't have that kind of a mind, so.
Well, I am hoping that I can set up another one and make a recording. This one, I made a couple of mistakes. And installing Thai language module, I think, well, they say it worked. My Thai is rusty.
I have no Thai, so. Other than I do know you need UTF-8 set on multiple levels, or you will get, I don't know what you get. You will get an unintelligible language.
The word is crap, is what you get. As somebody that deals with stupid dot critics all the time, I hate them just as much as I hate label printers, only I get much more verbose with my staff when it comes to the issues we regularly encounter.
Yeah, I can recognize Thai writing, but that's about it. No further.
Cool. Anybody else have an announcement?
This might not be an announcement, but I don't know if everybody saw that Kelly from Bywater Solutions is leaving. So maybe this is a suggestion. Why don't we all say congratulations on your new job, Kelly, and wave, and we can send her this part of the recording and say good luck on your new job.
Kelly.
Good luck, Kelly.
Luck.
Good luck,
Good luck,
Kelly.
Kelly.
Congratulations and good luck.
Good luck, Kelly.
Thanks for all you did.
I'm gonna have to designate a new comedic foil for next year's conference. Yeah, I'm sure Elise will get that over to Kelly. Cool. Any other announcements? All right, let's move on. First up, conference recap. Keep this brief because we haven't really had a chance to meet and unpack this, but it was another successful conference. We had pretty similar attendance to what we did at Portsmouth, and Portsmouth was higher than we had previously. We had at any given time probably about 50 to 85 people online throughout the days, so that was really nice to have that, and participants too, asking questions and participating in that part of it. And things went pretty smoothly. People asked if I enjoyed the conference, and I was in the mindset of pulling it off so much that I don't know that I remember how I felt about individual sessions or anything, but seemed to get some good feedback. We do have a survey that will be that was linked on we had a QR code for that, but we'll get out that so we can get some more feedback from all of you. But it was just it was another good time for us to all get together and online and in person and talk Koha. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add any thoughts here, but we'll, as always, the conference committee is going to take a look at everything and see what we can do well again next year and what we can improve on and all that good stuff.
This is a foolish observation, but I wore my cowboy boot earrings. So thanks, Rhonda, for cowboy boot earrings.
All right, that's a good segue onto our next topic, and that is site proposals for 2025. If you think your library can host, then I strongly consider thinking about it. You can certainly ask questions. We had those as well as a QR code on the program and things like that, but we'll also be sending out an email to membership really soon to get those out there. And I don't know, Rhonda, how can you say something that doesn't dissuade people from doing this?
I thought it was fantastic to have the conference here. The engagement that I got from staff, just conversations that people who were sort of, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of apathetic about the conference being here. They didn't care one way or another. They were able to have conversations with people that came and visited and were excited afterwards. So just for the selfish perspective of getting my staff more excited about the Koha community, I thought it was a win. That alone is worth it. And just enlisting help, I got 5 or 6 other staff members to help, and that got them excited about the conference. They literally said to me on the last day, "I'm sorry this is over. I'm really having fun. This is great. I wish it would last longer." So it's just a great way to, get your library staff kind of, I go to the conference, I come back, I tell them about it, but it was very different for them to be here and meet people and have conversations.
Great. I hadn't even thought about that angle. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And just so you don't, the committee, obviously there's a decent amount of work involved, but the committee's there to help and support and all that stuff as well. So at this point, we've got people who have been on the committee for a long time, including, I don't know if Rhonda will do it again next year. She's earned some time off, but lots of people on that committee that know how where we've done things and had successes. So there's some good support behind that to help guide through the process. Next thing is another thing for you all to consider, and we're not going to go through all the testimonials because we did that at our general meeting during the conference, but nominations for the board will also be out soon. And that is an opportunity to get more involved doing the sort of work that we've been doing. And there are different levels on the board. If you want to, both Andrew and I mean, I've been vice president and president. Andrew is vice president this year, president next year. That entails a bit more, but again, you do have support. But there's also other positions like treasurer and both the supported and unsupported membership will be having on the ballot this year. So consider participating. And if you don't want to do a board member, there's things like the conference committee that I just was just talking about. So there's lots of opportunities to help out and pitch in and do those sort of things. Make Kelly a board member. Yes. I don't know if she's at a Koha library or not, but I suppose we could make her do something.
So, sorry, just to interrupt, are there links available yet for either nominations or the conference site submission?
I believe, well, I know we have the site one. We'll get you that for the minutes at least,
Okay.
Kristi. They're kind of all floating around. Believe it or not, after the big conference, I think it made sense for everybody that worked so hard on it to take a step back from koha-US for a few minutes. So we will be getting our ducks in a row and getting all that stuff out to membership. George with another pitch for taking on the Consortia SIG for a month. But that's where I started, was doing the Consortia SIG, not just one time, but it was a good way to get my feet wet and get involved in the community. Okay, I will also say it's not on the agenda either, but we also will be putting out the vote for the development that we're going to attempt to put money towards. So that is another thing that we'll probably share some timing with on the we'll try to get that out with the nominations and line that up so we're not sending out a couple of different votes. So you can vote for board members as well as the development at the same time. So those developments are already decided on, so that what the list is, so that those will be presented at this once we have our nominees. Then finally, Lizette, during the conference, decided to create a new SIG. We still have a little work on our end to actually make that the infrastructure and get that all set up. But I think it's a really good idea. It's something there was kind of an informal meeting already, and we're calling it Baby Devs. And the idea there is just to kind of nurture that development side of things in the Koha community. So look forward, if that's something you're interested in, we'll set that up where there'll be a regular meeting time. There'll be a group mailing list that you can be a part of. We just have to get that some infrastructure put in place there, but I think it's going to be a really cool idea just to talk through some of those things and help figure out how people can get more involved on that side of things. Lizette being a great example of that, somebody who dabbled in that when she worked at a Koha library, and then now involved in the development over at Bywater. So she's a good person to have came up with the idea and get things started. All right, I'm going to turn things over to our special guests. As many of you may know, we like to have guests every month to talk about either different aspects of the Koha community or Koha related open source things. And this more falls in the latter there. But I originally booked them when they were still working at Bywater, but they've since spun off their own company that they can tell you a little bit more about. But they're here today to talk a little bit about the Aspen community and kind of how that functions. And I think whether or not you're a Koha user who also uses Aspen, I think just hearing how other open source products for libraries and the communities that support them and use them function is going to be interesting. So Mark Noble and Jordan Fields from Grow for Libraries are here.
Hey, thank you so much, Bob, and thanks for the invite. Like Bob said, we were previously with Bywater. Mark and I just started Grow for Libraries in order to have more bandwidth to provide development for new features for Aspen. But a little bit of, I know a lot of you know us here and a lot of you know about Aspen, but we'll do a little bit of a background on Aspen too, just for a few of you in case you're not. But my name is Jordan Fields. I have been a librarian for officially 15 years and worked in libraries before that, but I've been working with Aspen. I started working with Aspen and its kind of predecessors in 2012. And I'll let Mark introduce himself as well.
Hey, I know a lot of you, but I'm Mark Noble. I'm Aspen architect. I've been working with Aspen for 14, 15 years at a variety of places. Cool thing about open source. And yeah, having fun getting to build cool new things for libraries. So I'll pass back over to Jordan. Glad to be here.
So I'm going to do most of the presentation today, but we hope to have plenty of time for Q&A, and Mark will definitely be a part of that. So a quick introduction to Aspen Discovery. If you're not familiar with Aspen or familiar with discovery layers are really focused on the patron experience. So it's how the patron interacts with the library, and we like to separate that from the ILS and all of the functionality that makes the library run, that circulates the books, all those kinds of things for a couple different reasons. Traditionally, ILS vendors have had to split their focus. So the OPAC hasn't always been, in the forefront of their new development, but splitting that off with Discovery lets there be a specific focus on the patron experience and then staff processes on the background. The other thing on the back end, the other thing that Discovery does is that it pulls together all of the resources across all of the things that the library does. So the goal of a good discovery layer, and certainly one of the goals for Aspen, is to be a one-stop shop for anything that the library does. So that can be events, that can be your e-content, just really anything, archives, and we'll see more about that. And then the third thing is that we do particularly with Aspen is we work hard to build a community of librarian advocates to support and advance the goals of all the libraries using Aspen. I don't think we could do it without the community, just because the community is our connection to the patrons, and you all know and work with patrons every day. So that's what makes Aspen what it is. So a little bit more, Aspen by the numbers. Aspen actually, it integrates with Koha for sure, but it actually integrates with a total of 7 different integrated library systems. It integrates with 5 e-content sources, so a full integration with APIs where you can see checkouts and reading history and all of that. But even if your e-content vendor does not offer an API integration, you can load those MARC records and still get all of that content into Aspen. It integrates with 4 different event platforms. You can get your website into Aspen search results, either through building it within Aspen with Aspen's web builder, or through website indexing. So the same way Google will go out and index websites, Aspen can do the same. You just point it at your own website and it can pull those results in. We also want to make sure that your patrons can pay their fines, fees, donate to the library. So we integrate with 11 different e-commerce platforms. Also, databases are huge for libraries, and Aspen can pull in database articles from EDS, EBSCOhost, and Summon. Also includes archives integration. So for your local history or any other kind of digital archive that has OAI PMH capabilities, you can pull that in as well. There's also a related library app and I could just spend all of this time talking about all of the different integrations. That's just kind of scratching the surface of what it does. But the Aspen community now is more than 1,600 libraries using Aspen. We do 12 feature releases per year. We will do kind of some point releases in between those, just if there's something small, but we do 12 major feature releases a year. We have 8 different community groups working to inform and improve Aspen, and I'll talk more about what those community groups are and what they do in a bit. And then 6 different organizations worldwide providing support and development for Aspen. So that's just kind of where Aspen is today. Bob asked me to focus on the Aspen community ecosystem, what we do as a community. So I mentioned those community groups, but we try to think about our community in kind of 3 different chunks, and they're all equally important to making Aspen what it is and making it work for libraries. So first of all, we have the developer community, obviously critical for software, and those are the folks that do the development and the QA for Aspen, keep it moving forward, develop new features. Something that I think a lot of people don't think about, especially if you're not directly involved in discovery, is the vendor community. And this is extremely important for a community like Aspen. These are the e-content vendors. These are the event vendors. It's critical that all of those vendors work with us so that we can make Aspen what it is. And it's not just us using APIs from these other vendors. Aspen actually has its own APIs. And for example, Communico's app will work with Aspen's APIs. So because it relies on that interoperability, this vendor community of us working together is really critical. And then of course, the most important piece, the library community. So these are the librarians letting us know what Aspen needs and helping us decide what direction it should go in. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into each of these. So starting back with the Aspen developer community, Aspen is of course open source. It actually came out of a different open source project called Viewfind. Viewfind, I think, was officially out of beta in 2009, so they kind of were born at the same time. Viewfind just gave Aspen a little bit of a head start, and we've talked to Damien from Viewfind, and both kind of agree these are really different communities. One of the beautiful things about open source software is that you can have different software come out of the same place to meet different user needs. Aspen has been in development actually for 14 years. It was started by the Marmot Library Network, where I am in Colorado, along with Mark Noble in 2010. And it's not always gone by the name Aspen. It was originally Viewfind Plus to differentiate it from Viewfind, and then it was called Pika. Pika still exists today, a branch of Pika that some libraries primarily in Colorado use, but then Aspen came out of that. The number of developers you can see on the screen here is growing along with the number of libraries and support organizations. So in a little bit, I'll show you a similar graph that shows the number of libraries using Aspen today. It kind of has a horizontal flipped curve. But what you see today, particularly the starred lines, each of these represents a person working on Aspen. The stars are the developers. And then the other folks are people that are doing QA, documentation, support, that kind of thing. But you can see just in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been an explosion in the number of people working as part of the Aspen developer community. So Aspen developer community, their role within that broader Aspen ecosystem, like we said, they write code for Aspen. The second point here, that they collaborate with other libraries and community groups on features and QA, again, is critical. You'll hear me say collaborate over and over again today, because it's really listening to libraries, talking to them about their needs, what they see, the problems with the software that makes Aspen what it is. So if you don't have the developers talking to the libraries, it's really difficult to build good software. Of course, the developers themselves coordinate on new features and bug fixes. They do that at their monthly meeting. And then it's really up to the developers who have the expertise to maintain the standards and the security of the Aspen code, just to ensure Aspen's long-term success. So that's the Aspen developer community. I want to move on to the Aspen vendor community now. Like we said, it's a little bit different with Aspen because we have this extra column on the right. Now, you all know the column on the left. These are the organizations that do support and or development for Aspen. We have 3 in North America, as well as Europe, South America. And then KnowledgeWare in Asia has kind of come in and out. I don't know that they have anybody live, but we are working with them directly right now to get some libraries off the ground. But then it's those integration partners. So the ILS partners are critical because even though we integrate with everything, of course, the ILS is the primary thing that we want to make sure Discovery is able to provide access to for patrons. E-content is close behind that, events, and we went over a bunch of the others. But if you look at each of the names on the screen, that also represents membership within this vendor community and people that we need to work with and collaborate with in order to make Aspen a success. So the Aspen vendor community's role within that bigger Aspen ecosystem is we really work well with people that have a joint understanding that collaboration leads to better features. There's that collaboration word again. They also understand that more exposure and more use of library resources is good for everyone and therefore leads to more success for libraries. It's a really easy sell for e-content vendors coming to us all the time saying like, how do we get more of our stuff in Aspen? How do we make that experience better? Because they understand that that's really just exposure for those materials. We also look for people who are committed to listening to the needs of libraries and their patrons through participation in other community groups. And this is the vendors as well. We had a large number of vendors at our first AspenCon last year, and I got a lot of feedback from those vendors saying, this is unlike any conference we've been to before because we get to talk to the libraries in a different way. We're invited into the conversation and we're a part of a conversation rather than sitting in a booth and waiting for libraries to come up to us. And I really believe that that's better for everyone, that we should all be working together in order to build the software and that they're going to get better feedback. They're going to be able to build better things for libraries. The last point that I think is very particular to Aspen is avoiding lock-in, where you can only get Aspen from one support organization, or you can only use one, like we would only integrate with one events platform. We want to make sure that you all have choice and you can choose the integrations that are best for you. Just last week, I was talking with a vendor that builds directly competitive products to Aspen, and we are still talking about how we can share. They're offering to give us a demo of their product, and just because they understand, well, they might buy some things from us, work with Aspen on other things, or sorry, you libraries might buy some things from them, work with Aspen on other things, and then we can just all work together, and that just kind of benefits everyone. So that collaboration and understanding that is really important for vendors that are a part of the vendor community. Finally, the last of those three communities is the Aspen Library Community. This is the graph that I kind of teased a little bit earlier. If you remember the developers where there were just a few at the top and then all of a sudden a whole lot more. These are the number of libraries that are using Aspen today. Apologies for not having numbers on the y-axis. Back in 2010, there were between 20 and 30 libraries. And then, like I said, today there's over 1,600. This graph was actually done for AspenCon in March, so it's grown even more since then. But you can see that all of a sudden, like, library adoption has really increased and that library community has really grown. I mentioned those 8 community groups earlier. The first one we already talked about, and that's that developer community, but we have 2 other groups and then one kind of category of groups. We have a community group that's really the parallel to this group for the Aspen community, run by community members, helps to decide the priorities for Aspen, helps kind of organize the subcommittees like AspenCon that you all were talking about with koha-US earlier. We also have the catalogers group. In my mind, I rename this like the Aspen Brain Trust, just because there's so much knowledge in this group about how the data in their MARC records, how things work. We don't really adjust relevancy or anything having to do with library data without talking to this group first. So lots of times the community group will come up with an idea for a feature, or a couple libraries will come up with an idea for a feature. And then we have to go to the catalogers group and be like, okay, we can code this, but you have to help us figure out where the data is going to come from and which different places and how do your MARC records differ. So this is one of my favorite groups to go to, and they really do a lot to build Aspen. The last group is the ILS, or the ILS user groups. There are actually 5 of these. Each represents a different ILS. You might have heard me say that there are 7 different ILSs. Koha does not have an ILS user group. If anyone at all wants to start one, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to get that off the ground for you all. because I think it's really helpful for us to have it. Not quite as necessary for the open source ILSs, as one of the goals of this group is to help, of these groups, is to help bridge the knowledge gap between the Aspen developers and the ILS vendors. Just because we can't directly see the code, it's helpful to have libraries kind of work with us there. But they also help prioritize features that are specific to the ILS. And it's just kind of a little bit of a social place too, to talk about Aspen with people that use the same ILS. So that is how our Aspen library community is laid out. So again, last time their role in the broader Aspen ecosystem, extremely important that all the other groups listen to this group to articulate, so that this group can articulate their needs, not only for themselves and their libraries, but remember, Aspen is patron facing, so it's really about the patrons. So we rely on libraries to be the intermediaries with the patrons. They also help prioritize the development. If you come to one of our community meetings, there's hardly a community meeting where we don't talk about priorities to make sure that the Aspen developers are working on the most urgent projects, the most important things for the community. And then of course, they're involved with testing new features, providing feedback, and that iteration process is extremely important for Aspen too, that we'll get into in a minute. Okay, so Bob also asked me to talk a little bit about the Aspen development cycle. That's why we talked about the community first, because we have this ideas funnel, and it's in this funnel that those three groups, the librarians, the developers, and the vendors, work together to kind of refine the ideas, prioritize the ideas for what features are developed for Aspen. So out of that funnel of all that collaboration comes a feature, and then it goes to QA. Right now, primarily the libraries that are requesting features, or the libraries that the support organizations that are developing features, are doing the first round of QA. We have a number of libraries that have test servers, and then of course they test these features, and then those features go into production. I've already mentioned that community groups do a lot of the prioritization, and that Aspen releases monthly to allow for quick iterations. And we'll talk about why that is next. So I get questions sometimes about why we do this monthly release cycle. There's a couple different reasons. One is that library priorities are constantly shifting. It's getting a little old now, but the pandemic example is still good here. All of a sudden our world changed. If we're not releasing as often, if we were not able to shift our priorities, we wouldn't be able to meet the needs of the shifting populations during that time. And that was a big example, but these small things happen, these things happen in smaller ways all the time. AI is a topic that's really big right now. Of course, we're thinking about that and talking to libraries about that. But if we had, a 2-year roadmap, there's no way that we would be able to maybe shift some resources to focus on something that's more important right now. So that way we're always working on the next most important thing. Another thing is that, remember, patron-facing tool, patrons don't like it when they open something and it's completely different. They just want to look up a book and all of a sudden they open their app or they open their laptop and everything is different. That doesn't sit well with them, and the broader technology community also actually recognizes this. So what we're doing is we're releasing fewer updates more frequently. Patrons don't complain as much because they don't notice it. It's just kind of like one little thing, or one thing in a better place, one additional little feature. And this is another thing why I think it's important to distinguish between your patron-facing discovery and an ILS. With an ILS staff workflow, you do not want staff workflow changing all the time. That could be a big pain. It's great to get new features, but monthly might be a little bit much. But with Aspen, the patrons expect it coming that much, and the trend in the broader technology community. So we always compare Aspen to other apps that our patron use. Does it look like Amazon? Does it work like Target? Can you find things like you can on Barnes & Noble? Those kinds of things. Those communities are really working towards continuous delivery. They don't have monthly releases. They have daily releases where anytime a new feature is done, it just automatically gets pushed out. We think that would be really difficult for you all to manage and to stay on top of it. So we kind of have this compromise. Well, we'll do it monthly and it won't be so much that it'll disrupt the patrons, but it'll be enough that the librarians can make sure that they understand and know how to use Aspen, and before their patrons are getting to it. So that is a really quick rundown of Aspen Discovery. Again, I want to thank Bob, and I would like to open the floor up for questions for me and Mark.
So I was counting during the user groups or not user groups, but all the groups, and it sounds like there's 5 ILS user groups, the overarching community, the cataloging, and then that's 7. What's the 8th one?
The developers.
Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned it briefly on the developer slide. It just didn't fit in that. It just kind of fit better there, but yeah. And that one's relatively new. We've only been meeting for a couple of months, but I'm really excited to see the explosion in interest in developing for Aspen. And it's a really nice mix of folks from the support organizations as well as librarians learning Aspen. And some of that came out of Aspen Con, where we had a kind of getting started with Aspen workshop. Anyone else?
You talked a little bit about the tenor of the cataloging meeting, but what are like some of these meetings? What do they look and feel like?
It's really
Who's
different.
there?
Yeah. We're not quite as formal as you all are, where we have official roles, but we do have Tara, who was more or less voted a little while back to lead our community group. Tara from the Swan Library Network. They're a consortium of 100 libraries using Symphony outside of Illinois, and that one has a much more of a formal agenda. The catalogers group, we tends to just be features that people want. We talk to them and say, "Ooh, you should bring that to the catalogers group." Like, we need their feedback. And then the catalogers group themselves will bring up questions. The ILS groups are all really different. Some of them are, it's kind of funny because I think of them as having parallel personalities to their ILSs. And I won't match. I won't say who's who, but some of them are really highly structured with agendas and Google groups and like and leaders. And some of them are more like a group of friends getting together to chat once a month.
There's lots and lots of brainstorming on ideas and relative priorities, because obviously can't get everything done at once, but it's really cool to see, and a lot of refinement. Sometimes you'll see people where it's like, "Oh, I've got this great idea," and the group will say like, "Have you considered approaching it this way?" And then somebody gets the solution to their problem without any code changing. Or it always gets refined, and we come up with much better solutions. So really cool. And of course, it's all very different.
Yeah, I would say the vendor groups more come to the general community meeting, and they kind of hang back and listen. Even sometimes I talk to them about participating a little bit more, but they definitely don't want to kind of come in and take over the library meeting. But I think, like I said, I think their feedback is crucial, because they know their piece of that Aspen ecosystem.
And koha-US has been around for roughly, well, we're calling it our 10-year anniversary. It was a little bit more informal at the beginning, and Koha has obviously had a community longer than that. This has come together more recently. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are about how that community has come together at this point, and maybe where it could go.
So I think it's really come together at the request of the libraries, but the urging of folks like Mark and I, where we would hear someone say, "Oh, it'd be really great if it did this, if Aspen did this." So that's kind of how the meetings get started, where we say, well, we need a group of people to talk about whether or not Aspen should do this and how Aspen should do this. So that's kind of how the community group came together. And then the other groups just kind of came out of that. So what we found at the community groups was we would reach a stopping point where, okay, we need catalogers. Like we can't go any further until we talk to the catalogers, but the catalogers don't necessarily want to come to all the community meetings. So that meeting came out of that. Or the ILS was similar. It's like, okay, well, this feature is great, but it's going to be developed differently for each ILS, and we need to know more about those ILSs. So that's where those groups kind of came out of. As far as moving into the future, I think for Aspen, this model is working really well right now. I think that our broader community group will get to be a little bit more formal. I think there are starting to be conversations around governance. We don't have a nonprofit, so things like AspenCon, where we have this wonderful vendor community, But any donations that they want to make to AspenCon or sponsorships for AspenCon, they can't donate to a 501c3 like koha-US. So kind of formalizing what's happening at that bigger community group more so that we can do things in, I don't want to say like a more legal way, but we can have some of the benefits of being organized as a nonprofit.
And Koha moving to a foundation, is that something that is a consideration? I know you're not speaking for everybody, but
Yeah, that's the trick, is I definitely don't want to speak for everyone, and those conversations really are happening right now. So rather than kind of speculate, I would just say stay tuned. And I know a lot of you will, because a lot of you are from that broader Aspen community. But I hope so.
does anybody else have any questions? Not hearing any, so thanks for visiting us and sharing with us what's going on with Aspen.
Thanks so much.
So now we are at the part of our meeting where it's open discussion. Could be bugs, could be just problems you're facing. The upgrade that if you're Bywater supported is coming within the next month-ish. Anything anybody want to talk about?
I opened a bug.
Nice.
Let me see if I can pull it up. So it comes back. So in 2405, there's a release or a bug that makes it so that bid records with tons and tons of items on them, like serials, are easier to load. So I guess it's going to work with an API instead. But I don't think that bug addresses bibs that also have a ton of holds on them. So I made a ticket or a bug for I'll get you the link in just a second here. Search definitions. Well, I'll look for it because it's not showing up in my Bugzilla dashboard right now, but I'll put it in the chat when I find it. But if anyone else is interested and has bibs with monster folds on them that are clogging up Koha, this is the bug for you.
Other bugs, other things that people have been testing in their, if you have a test server with a new with the latest version on that you've run into.
Oh man. So I have to correct myself. I'm stealing Lucas Gass's thunder. He actually filed a bug based on a ticket with Bywater. So Lucas
Same thing.
generously. No, it is not the same thing. Lucas deserves all the credit on that one. But here we go. It's bug 37705, and I will throw it in the chat now. Sorry, Lucas.
Last time I filed a bug, I did a thorough search and I was like, I don't think this bug is in here. I think I've discovered something new. And 5 minutes later, it was marked as a duplicate of another bug and closed. So I did not do as thorough a search as I thought.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do as thorough remembering as I thought. How embarrassing.
We're going to be pushing forward on the, for lack of a better term, FRBRization of holds in Koha. So a patron can place a hold on an item regardless of item type and get that hold filled if they're just in a rush. It's something that we're hearing from a lot of potential Koha libraries that they want. It's a Polaris feature. It's been sitting in the community for a while, so Bywater is just going to kind of kick it across the stream over to PTFS Europe and have them finish that feature. It's been written and it's failed QA several times, so we're just going to commit the funding to get it done. That's a pretty cool update.
Is there a bug number on that one?
Yeah, there is. Give me 2 seconds and I'll post it.
I just tossed it in the chat. It's
Thank you.
15516.
Thank you, Catrina. So Christopher, so if one of your patrons is saying, I want to place a hold on Harry Potter, I don't care if it's large print, small print, e-commerce, I mean, ebook, audiobook, I don't care. I just want it as quickly as possible. Koha will be able to do that if you want it to.
Does it move stuff around from bib to bib if they're on different bibs? That's the.
It would be a grouping of your bibliographic records. So
Okay.
similar, you have your grouped works in Aspen, you would choose
Yeah.
which bib records you want to be in a group for the holds, so that you would be able to say, I don't care if it's the large print or the trade paperback or the hardback book. I just want the first one that's available. Place the hold in that group of bibliographic records. And when the hold is filled, it would be filled. It would no longer stay on the other records.
Katrina, the test plan on this bug makes it sound like the user would be defining the group of titles that the hold is placed on at the point of hold. Is that how, but what you're describing sounds a little bit more like the library would be defining a group of titles that's available for this type of hold. Does that distinction make sense?
Yeah, so I had not read the bug. We were just talking about this in an earlier meeting today. So whether the patron defines the group of items that they want it to be holdable or the library defines, I think our vision was that the library would get to define which bib records go together.
And yeah, I see pluses and minuses either way, like way easier for the library to have like done that work ahead of time to find all the Harry Potters and group them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to figure out a way to do it automatically, but yes. So we're still constructing how this is going to look, but
yeah,
it's going to get done.
Yeah, finding a way to do it automatically sounds a lot better to me.
Yeah.
The bug as written is like in your search results, you can say, give me titles 1, 2, and 3. I'm placing a hold on all 3 of these things out of my search results at a time, which would be really usable. It's just putting it more like the onus on the patron to pick their things at the point of placing the hold.
I'd be interested to see how Polaris does it, really. That's kind of what I want to know. So if anybody has access to a Polaris system and they want to test it, let me know.
I'm trying to remember why we were just talking about this feature yesterday. I have to ask one of the librarians, but that's exciting.
Yeah.
Timely.
My understanding is the Polaris ones are all staff mediated, so I don't think patrons can place them through Polaris, but Evergreen does have that. They call it a meta hold, where you can place a hold on multiple records at once.
But work needs to be done by the library to group those first.
I don't believe so. I believe in Evergreen. It's all the staff or the patron just does it. But
I think that's going to be a good step forward because, as more and more libraries are adopting things like Aspen, if we're going to have that kind of functionality on the public side and not on the staff side, that's going to create this divide and make it a little bit more challenging for staff if they're trying to place the same kind of holds that the public can place.
Yes,
the
Heather.
APIs will be really important. Yeah.
I agree with Andrew. Meta hold sounds really cool.
I think we should add that on the bug. It's like a comment on the bug for suggested naming.
Looked like a couple other bugs got put in the chat. Do people that did that want to talk about their bug?
And we just got a very large consortium that committed to moving to Koha about 2 minutes ago. I'm not going to announce their name, but these people have been very vocal about being premier partners. They want to be very involved in this product and moving it forward. So I think this is going to be a big win for our community. Sorry, I'm just excited and I had to share it. So stay tuned.
Very involved makes it sound like they have deep pockets, so I like that.
Yep. Especially after coming off the system they're on.
Say when you will be at liberty to divulge the name.
Yes, probably next week or tomorrow.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of marketing suggestions for this new feature.
I want to brag on a really stupid thing I did in Koha, a very easy and like impactful thing that I wish I'd done 1,000 years ago. I used the pages feature to create a page that is nothing but plain text description of all of our different item statuses, like our 3 different withhold values. It's just a little glossary that I can look at to remind me what each thing means. And it's dead simple and stupid, and it took me 10 minutes, and I'm so happy it's there. It might
Yeah,
be just for me.
I saw your post on that. I liked it.
Makes me feel like that should be a thing, a place in Koha where you like remember what everything means. But it was also really easy to just make. So yay for flexibility.
Well, I saw something in there about granular cataloging permissions. I know we talked about that a few times. I'm sure Michelle can speak to it again if anybody's interested. But one of the things that I think we're going to be pushing for, and there's not a bug yet I can link to, but I'm just curious if anybody else might benefit from this, even though our situation is unique. We have a group of prison libraries, and so we tried to do this through jQuery and do a lot of different permission level stuff, and it's been kind of we're basically like killing Lucas to do all this work that then breaks whenever there's a new upgrade. So we need to go more of the development route, but it would hopefully involve looking at a lot more granular permissions all over the place, so we could differentiate and assign the ability to view more things. Now, in some cases, it might not be stuff that'd be super useful. Like you don't probably care too much to hide a lot of patron data to the extent that the Department of Corrections libraries need to hide. But I think one thing that I'm hoping to do is get some more permissions in the system to give some more flexibility. So a bug to come on that one. I'll probably talk about that more when we're a little bit more down the road on that to see if that's of interest to anybody or there's other ways we could use this for different scenarios.
I'm sure they would be interested in that. It's 5 counties coming together to form one system. It's very large, so they're probably going to need that kind of functionality down the road. We always tell people don't do developments for go live. Use the system. Get really a firm understanding of what you need and what you don't. And then we'll develop the stuff for you.
Well, we got about 5 minutes left. Does anybody else want to talk about anything in particular?
You're all awesome. I got to run. Thank you.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, well, I'll just reiterate, we're going to be getting out some more stuff on site proposals, board nominations, survey for the conference, all things like that. You should be seeing soon. We'll try not to, there'll be a little spike in the email amount that we normally send, but that will recede into more normal amounts soon. Also, this wasn't on the agenda, but we are moving things more over to communicating on Mattermost. versus the Slack channel we have set up. So I would recommend looking into that. There's last month's meeting, there was some information about how to access that, and I can, if anybody can't find it, can't figure it out, just let me know, and I'll just email me, and I will or fill out the form on the koha-US website, and then we'll get you the information for that. All right, thank you for your time. We'll see you next month, which will be, what's the date? It will be October 2nd, and I believe we have Ola Anderson, who is a member of the Swedish user group. So he's going to talk to us a little bit about how things are going over in Sweden.